Hey everybody and welcome. So, a little update on my bike. From my previous stream, everybody's seen that I kind of messed up a few things. And that is getting fixed later down the road. I am getting a different shock. I'm probably going to go with a Suntour XCM. I'm still deciding which kind of version I'm going to go with, because if I can go with the thread stem system, then I'm going to probably go with that. But still working on that. If not, then I'm just gonna stick with threadless. Use a smaller kind of stem, because instead of using 31.8s, I'm gonna be using the 25.4s. So this is gonna be adjustable stem. I'm gonna be buying the Zoom version. It's basically like the Pro Max, except it's for threadless. And instead of the screws being on the bottom, they're going to be on the top, and it's basically for smaller, non-tapered handlebars. So it's basically the same handlebars as these, except that it's not as wide taper here. And it'll also allow me to fit my front handlebar bag better. And then I have the disc brake caliper. Everything is actually kind of set up here. I'm gonna do a test ride later on tomorrow or such. But I got this already preset. Watched a little video on how to kind of set this, and it's actually pretty interesting. This is only a single piston. There are ones with dual pistons that close together on both sides, and then you have the 4 pistons and hydraulic systems, jazz like that. So basically, I'll link the video of that, of how to tune this, that I found down below. But it seems to be working okay. It doesn't have very hard stopping power as others would, probably because this has a round kind of disc piece, and it's very kind of short on its power ability. But yeah, seems pretty good. So it works. I'll show you that it actually closes and opens. So here's my V-brakes. These are already tuned, but I just took them off for now, unadjust them. And then I have my wheel lock right here. And then my cargo bag. And then this is this is not a water bottle. This is not something you drink from. This is actually a storage bottle that you can buy for like 10 bucks. It has a little storage compartment in here, and then one like right here. And then I have cables. This is for the internal battery at the moment. When I get my mid-drive, everything's just going to be like inside of here for the mid-drive, and then the outside. This bottle piece is going to be replaced because I'm going to use the one that comes with it. But it's going to have this is going to actually be like a water ball piece. It's not going to be like one of those big, huge, fancy battery pieces. It's going to be an actual water ball, just like this. And that falls off. But it's going to be just like this, and it's going to have a little plug in the back. That's why the other one's going to be put on instead of this, because this is blocking it. And then you just put it on like this. Tighten the back plug, turn it on, and it powers up the battery. And that's it. And then later on, I probably buy 2 more of these so I can put in this backpack or the rack pack, and then have like 30 performance on the entire battery ability. So this will be 10.4, and then 2 more in here later in the future, way down the road, 10.4 and 10.4, all in parallel, and that will give me 30 what is it, like 31.2 of Ah. And that will be all for the front hub. Or I can just swipe out for powering just the mid-drive and so forth. That's why I want 36 volt systems instead of 48 and 36. That way I can switch the power compliance from the internal to the external systems and have a better power outage. And then I had to do a little rigging because the speed control for my front was pretty big, so I couldn't put this in the frame and I couldn't put it in the back where I wanted it to because the wiring's too short. So I basically got my little fanny pack that I had on my Yukon Trail, put it on top, and it's working okay. I don't really like having to put it here though because of the threadless system. It kind of gets in the way, especially when turning, so that's why it's kind of loose right here in the front. But it works okay. I had to cut some holes here because obviously this gets hot and it starts getting too warm, so I kind of ripped off some hole in the front and in the back here. That way airflow goes like that and actually keeps the speed control nice and cool. The only thing I really don't like is this is kind of an annoyance. I'm not sure if this is going to go even faster, but I asked the company of this because I found this cable right here. This is a speed limiter cable. So once this is activated, it limits the speed control to such and such speed and whatnot. I asked him how slow this goes. It goes only 25. I mean, not 25. It only goes 12.5 miles per hour. Yeah, super slow when it's enabled. But when it's not enabled, this thing is unlimited, and I'm not sure if it goes beyond such, but I've tested it with a full charge battery, and it goes about 25 miles per hour, which is not supposed to be. So I'm not sure how well that's going to work my external batteries I'm going to get. Maybe it might go even 30. But yeah, that's a little annoying. But I noticed that one thing, especially with the internal battery, since I've been using this with the internal battery at the moment, once it starts getting like 75% and lower, this actually reduces down to 20 miles per hour, which is pretty cool with on the limiter. But it takes a super amount of more power than the rear motor does. And I know everybody's probably going, well, why don't you just use the stock motor that, or the speed control that's only 250 watts of power for the front and use that and whatnot. The problem with that is you get to see the inside of my pack, which is actually kind of insane here. But I have my toolkit here and all my other tools. A little cloth to keep everything from going crazy. It's actually a shirt. This is my speed control. Now, instead of kind of wiring everything all crazy, I actually took some little cables that you can basically just screw on, and I modified the end pieces here with these little cables that screw down into them. So all of them have these little pieces, even for the thin cables. So you can see here, right here, the thin cables right there are all connected. So I can't use these on that because they still have the stock plugs. Now I might rig a little adaptation system from these to that and try that and try a scenario out, but for now, yeah. So this speed control would be for the rear. I would have the battery pack kind of in here and then leave the power connector like that outside, and then this is an extension cable from female to male, and that way it could connect to that piece. But yeah, so this is all what's in my backpack right now. I have my extra speed control for my rear drive at the moment. If I can get the cable from flipping around. Got some locks. Got my BV pump. This is actually very nice. I am planning to put this on the side of my bike instead of having it in here all the time. So it makes it less annoying to have inside this pack. And then I would have my tools either normally in here or on the side right here. And on here, I actually, well, that's kind of right there for now, but I actually have a, I got this, that's not where it is. Okay, there it is. I got this from the slime kit. It comes with 4 valve stems or cores, and this little tool, and it's basically a reamer, a rethreader, an outside rethreader, and a core remover. And this is for Schrader valves. This is not for Pester valves. This is only for Schrader. So I got 4 Schrader valves and that tool, which is nice. And then these are all the tools for what I need to pair my bike on the go. I got clamps, cable cutter, the Shimano external bearing tool, the adjustable wrench, screwdriver, and then some other little wrench or such. I really don't need that, but I got this. This is my really nice multi-tool. This is a 31 multi-tool. So it comes undone by kind of pushing down, if I can actually do it. So it has a knife, remover tool, chain link cutter. I don't know what this is, but these hex wrenches, these, and a bunch of other hex wrenches with this, I guess this is an 8mm hex wrench? I don't know. I never need to use this, except for this piece. This piece I never need to use. So, and then it has this little wrench tool right here, which I really don't use much, but yeah. And it has a plus and minus screwdriver set, which is nice. But it also comes with a little belt strap, which is nice too. I don't know if they sell that tool anymore, because most of their tools are like 21 tool set or such forth. That is a Gen 2 Allen key set. But yeah. But everything else is pretty much on the bike, stock. I had a little break-in with this, but I replaced it. And now it fits on there nicely. This is my V-brake coupler adjustment piece. And then quad throttle, normal throttle, power. Still using the friction shifter until I get the mid-drive kit or get everything done with the front hub. And then I'm going to remove the rear tire for the standard tire with then putting all the shifter mechanisms and everything like that, and then get that tuned and adjusted. And then when I get my new shock, which I know a lot of people seen and probably was like, okay, what happened to it and all that jazz. It did break. It didn't really break the entire component of it, but it did crack the lower piece that's on the crown race right here. So I do have to get this replaced if I plan on doing some off-roading and whatnot. But for cruising and everything, it's been holding up fine. I've had taken this a few times off out in the street and went up to 20 miles per hour, 25, and it's been holding pretty well. But anything else, I'm not going to try and attempt because it is quite a crack. It is completely cracked on the lower end of the crown right here. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to probably get a XCM Suntour thread or threadless fork shock that basically just has two pre-adjusters on both sides, and instead of, I think these are 32, it's only going to be a 30 millimeter shock extensions. But when I do put that on, I'm going to put this rotor in because another reason why I'm getting that instead of replacing these with these lowers with a brand new lower set or something like that. They only have disc brake lowers for these, which is not very nice. So I want to keep disc brakes, V brakes. Even though I'm going to put this on, I still want to use V brakes. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna have these just for looks and jobs like that. But the reason I'm going for the XCMs from Suntour is because the drop-offs, you probably won't notice, but these drop-offs, well, you actually can see it right there, are not fully aligned with the actual outside of the shock piece. So these are 100 millimeter shocks and 100 millimeter wheelbase, but since it has the disc brake rotor pieces, you can see that this is really on edge, like literally on the dot. Yeah, I can take these off and probably not bother with that since I'm not really using the disc brake rotors. But I decided to go with a coil system instead of an air fork and all that jazz. And see how well that goes. If not, again, I can easily, since this is easily replaceable, I can just buy a Recon disc rotor system itself if I wanted to. Well, actually, I can't go with that because, like I said, the rotor system won't fit. But yeah, so either way, the newer shocks will have basically the extensions right in the correct spot instead of basically more towards the outside of it, which is what I'm trying to get for. So this will still have the rotor and everything all fit and V-brakes and all that jazz, but it'll just be preload extensions instead. I might, if it's possible, I might actually be able to modify and take this lockout and probably put it on the new fork piece. Not sure. I'll have to see and double check how that works. But if this is hydraulic fluid and everything like that, then I'll probably be able to do that. But I doubt it because this only has two functions, lockout and full open. It doesn't have like the actual kind of pre-damping fluid system where it just goes duk, 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 duk. So it's just open and unlock. But I'll have to check because I am going to open this up later in the future. But yeah. So yeah, and like I said, I'm going to probably go either threadless or thread, depending on how I can get this to look and how well the threads are going to be. Because if I can go thread, that would be nice, because I can go with the old, I can use my Pro Max quill stem system with a small little adapter in the middle, slam that in, boom, done. I won't have to buy a new entire stem piece for it. But if I can't, then I'm just going to go with the Zoom, which is basically, like I said, similar to my Pro Max, except for it's designed for threadless systems. And instead of a star nut inside here, I'm actually going to buy a press expansion threadless piece that basically goes about like that deep inside of your tube piece, and it expands just like a quill stem system, so it expands the outsides more to fit in and lock this piece together instead of basically screwing it down. So it's much more convenient than having to shove a star nut in here and then lock that down like that. And another thing, I'm not sure if I will, that's why I'm going to get the expansion piece, but I saw this cool toolkit from OneUp that's going to be like $120 for it. The toolkit is like $60, and then you have to buy the tapper and the cap. But that basically has it where you can thread this, thread the top piece on, and then put your cap on with a little freewheel locking tool, and then you just put your tool in there. Though I'm a little iffy on it, I know a lot of people are probably going to contradict me and say this is actually not too bad as you think, but it kind of gets me a little worried because it doesn't really describe or even show how it sits into the actual post correctly. Because I've seen that it has like 3 O-ring pieces, and then once it's in, it doesn't like wiggle on top. But what's it do when it's in there? Like this. Because it's not actually being held from the sidewalls of the actual tube piece. It's just floating. The only thing that holds it in place is the little cap piece that screws down, which is kind of a little worrying, because what if you're biking and this just goes like that, or it wiggles in here and bangs around the inner fork, and then maybe even your tools get banged off, and or the little cartridge just goes something like that. I don't know, but it gets me a little like, like how secure is it? You can comment down below and tell me if you have this kind of tool. But yeah, it gets me a little interested in like how that works and everything. Because I mean, it's a cool little toolkit holder area, and I probably will look into getting it. But yeah, that has me a little worried about. But for now, like I said, I'm just going to use the expansion plug that goes in here, and that will be more convenient than having to shove a star nut down there all the time and remove it and jazz like that. But yeah, there's 2 different kind of forks. They are the exact same forks, but one's thread, and then the other one's not. The other one that's thread. The reason why I'm still a little iffy on it is because I'm not sure how much threading is actually exposed, because it only says it's got 55 millimeters of threading, and it's 180 millimeters of an entire fork. So that means that it only has about 35 or 25? Yeah, 125 of threading. I mean, not threading. So I have to do a little research on how much depth that has and how much threading piece has. And if it does work, then yeah. If not, then I'll just stick with threadless. Or I can see if my local shop has a little tool I will probably be asking them if they have a threading tool that can still keep going after. That way I can add more threads and then put down the thread piece, boom. And probably gonna wonder how I'm gonna actually get a thread fork on a threadless kind of stem system, especially if this is an oversized stem piece. And this is actually a reducer, I believe. So it is not a 30-inch to 28-inch tube piece. This is actually an oversize. So what I'm gonna do is probably keep both of these, use the race that comes with this onto the new fork, which this is a 1H 1.5 inch fork system, straight tube system. So I can still use a 30 to 28 inch fork system, but the top and bottom are reducers, so they're oversized bearings and everything inside of it, so you can't use a standard race and all that system and jazz like that. So I'm gonna probably just keep the bearings and everything in here and just probably remove this cap and put the thread cap piece on top of the bearing like that, and then basically put the locking thread piece there and then mark it to cut that off, and then then put this the stem piece in there if I can put the entire thread system on. But again, if that doesn't work, if my entire thing like that doesn't go to plan, or my research doesn't see that will work or is a possibility, then I'll just stick with threadless and go with that, because that'll probably be way easier to use and all that jazz, and just resuck all that back there. But yeah. So anyways, that's it for now. I'll see you guys all later, and that's the update for my bike. It's still rideable and it's still workable and it's still pretty decent, and I really can't wait for all the upgrades of the mid-drive or rear hub or jazz like that for dual mode performance and all the battery ability, because that's the biggest thing that's going to go on this bike is dual power performance. And the reason why, again, I have the front power hub is because, again, that will be for distance, jazz like that, and then the rear for power performance. But I also found out the front, this is something that a lot of people don't seem to get, especially with mid-drives, is the front is actually really good for grippage. It's not as crappy as people will think. It's actually pretty decent for grip. Like if you take it off-road and you just use your back tire, you're like, oh, okay. But then you turn on the front tire and it's just like, you can, like, the entire bike just grips very better. And it reduces the amount of power need for the rear tire, because the front tire is now pulling you and then the back tire is pushing you, so that gives a lot more balance in overall bike. So having a mid-drive with a front drive in conjunction of power performance actually gives you a lot more better grip, especially for softer sand off-roading. So I'll see you guys later. Peace out.